The ocean is big, beautiful, and pretty terrifying. If something is lost at sea, odds are it's lost in time. That is until, it decides to spit it back out during your morning beach walk. What's happening, guys, and welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. We have a good one for you today. Lose the socks and grab those crocs because we're heading to the beach. I'm Taylor McWatters. Here are the top 10 most terrifying things washed ashore. Kicking off the list at number 10, we have E.T. Yep, I'm literally talking about the extraterrestrial from the 80s. That's how I'm kicking this list off. Margaret Wells, at age 76, was finally able to reunite with her lost E.T. It was stolen back in 2011 along with her jewelry, which, side note, how random is that heist? Guy steals jewelry, an iron, and a life-sized E.T. extraterrestrial. Okay. PS4? No? Alright. So it gets stolen, and finally, months later, it washes up along the coast of Old Portsmouth. A morning walker saw it, him, the alien rather, and then thought that it was a body. I think after they realized it wasn't a human, they had more questions, because I certainly did. Classic E.T. though, he always comes home. Number 9. The Great Lego Spill. While oil spills are sadly common in our oceans, apparently Lego spills are a thing as well. Neat. I figured I'd include a fun one that also reignites the child in us. Let's do it. Back in 1997, a container filled with millions of Lego bricks fell into the sea near Cornwall, UK, and to this day, we're still finding Lego pieces on Cornish beaches. Lego is stupid expensive now. This is pretty valuable, honestly. If you're lucky, you'll find one of the 353,000 plastic Lego daisies washed along our shore. The wave that hit the ship was quite rare, and the fact that it happened to be filled with Lego, thank you, universe. We love this. If only it was K'NEX though, I was more of a K'NEX guy growing up, not gonna lie. Shout out to K'NEX. Comment down below if you're a K'NEX guy or a Lego guy. Number 8. Velella jellyfish. It's not uncommon for a jellyfish or two to wash ashore, but these specific jellyfish, called the Velella, are so light that the wind will literally push them all out of the water. How sad is that? They didn't make the UFC weigh-in, and then they got kicked out of the fight. Yeah, hundreds of these little guys, 3 to 6 times a year, will just get blown out of the water. What a horrible way to go. They're blue, beautiful, and about 8 centimeters long, and back in 2014, thousands of these Velella jellyfish washed ashore along the northwest side of the United States. They look like gross deflated balloons. They're actually referred to as by-the-wind sailors because they have a little sail that pokes above the water while their tentacles hang underneath the surface. They're literally going where the wind blows them. How cute is that? Also, a lot of them died, so it's not really cute. It's pretty tragic, actually. Number 7. Crabs. Wait a minute, Taylor, crabs on a beach? That doesn't sound terrifying or odd at all. Yeah, well, how about thousands of them? How scary is that? How about so many crabs that you can't even see the beach? Pretty terrifying if you ask me. These 7-Eleven crabs washed ashore in Hawaii, and they looked like something from the apocalypse, but it's actually pretty normal, all things considered. These little guys all had one thing in common that led them to having a beach day. They were Geminis. No, I'm just kidding. They couldn't dive because they had air bubbles trapped in their shells, so eventually they were all washed ashore because they just floated, and again, like these little sailfish dudes, they all just had to get pushed out of the water, where some kid then had the misfortune of finding them. All thousands of them. Sea spiders, I don't like them. Sometimes nature doesn't have all the answers. For example, thousands of dead sea creatures are washing up along English beaches right now, and the smell is horrible. Pollution is obviously a big part of the problem, that plus the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, that definitely doesn't help. It's like bigger than Texas, it's horrible. Number 6. Spaceship debris. When the Challenger broke apart 73 seconds into its mission on January 28, 1986, 7 crew members' lives were sadly taken as the ship's fuselage broke apart and scattered over the Atlantic Ocean. If there's anything that we've learned from recent lists is that we have no idea what are in our ocean, let alone how to find lost parts. A decade later, part of America's lost history began washing ashore near the Kennedy Space Center, of all places. Again, early morning joggers finding all the crazy stuff. The Challenger landed about 22 miles away from there, and all that time later, this piece that weighs hundreds of pounds came back. It showed up. The debris from the Challenger is currently on display at the Forever Remembered Memorial at the Kennedy Space Center. Even more recently, the 2015 debris from Elon Musk's rocket washed ashore in the Bahamas. This is why you need water shoes, people. You never know. You might step on a spaceship. Number 5. A large eyeball. Sometimes you find Lego, sometimes you find the Kraken's eyeball. Back in 2012, this ball of yuck washed ashore at Pompano Beach in Florida. The classic insane Florida headline, back at it again. The eye was the size of a softball, and for a while beachgoers were speculating what monster this thing belonged to. The state's Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission determined that the eye belonged to a swordfish, and given the straight lacerations on its eye, it's clear that an angler cut it out and then threw it like a shot put back in the water. where again, a poor soul had to find it. I can't imagine finding this, that would be so jarring. Just a big eyeball. Number 4, rubber ducks. Thousands of rubber ducks slowly approaching. Is this the end? Is this how we all die? Just like Lego, but perhaps even better, weirder, I don't know, worse for the environment? These thousands of rubber ducks washed upon the shores of Hawaii, Alaska, South America, Australia, the Pacific Northwest, and the Arctic Circle. Yeah, they're on a heist. They're coming for you. They're taking over. There's a book called Moby Duck about this entire phenomenon. It's a big deal, and you've probably heard about it at some point. If you've seen Blue Planet 2, this also isn't news to you. It was on Blue Planet 2, that's how big this is. Over 25 years ago, thousands of these guys were lost at sea, or rather, set free, in the Pacific Ocean after a shipping container broke loose. They're still washing ashore today, so if you find one, even if it's dirty and looks like it's 30 years old, give it a quick rinse, and then throw it in the tub. You're bathing with history. How neat is that? Number 3, message in a bottle. Back in 1784, Japanese seaman Tsunisuke Matsuyama and 43 companions all set sail on the Pacific to treasure hunt. Yeah, to this day, there's still trillions of dollars worth of gold laying around, so you might want to get 43 friends together as well and start digging. Thing is though, back then it was much easier to get stranded on an island. There's no planes going over all the time, long distance calling wasn't a thing, so sadly a storm pushed the sailors over coral and they had to swim to a nearby island. They were stuck, they were castaways, they had a limited amount of food, plus with that many people, it definitely didn't last long. Eventually, and sadly, they started to starve to death. Right before the inevitable happened to Matsuyama, he sent out a message in a bottle, telling the story of the crew writing on thin strips of coconut tree. Cut to 151 years later, 1935, that message was found. A seaweed collector came across the bottle and it just happened to land in Hiraturimura, the same village the author of the message was born in. How beautiful is that? Number 2. A giant fender. I would have looked at this thing for hours and still I'd have no idea what this is. This giant ship bumper doesn't look like anything out of the ordinary upon first glance because, well, it's usually attached to a much larger ship. They're used so the side of a ship doesn't smash into the dock. It's pretty common in all ships of all sorts of sizes. But when you see this thing floating towards you of that size, a mere human swimming on the shore, you would think a submarine is docking. It's massive. This giant lone bumper washed ashore the North Norfolk beaches, which seem to be a hotspot for alarming objects to show up, apparently. Stay away from this beach unless you want to be attacked by a bumper. These fenders aren't cheap either, as one would assume. They cost around 26 grand for just one of them. That thing right there, 26 grand. You can go to school or you can buy one of these. That one was 40 feet tall and it got stuck in a pretty weird spot. Vehicles couldn't drive up and simply tow it without sinking themselves. So now there's a weird monument that's just hanging out for a bit. The area is also a nature reserve for hundreds of different bird types, which explains why the top is painted white. The more you know. And finally, number 1, a large pipe. If you have submechanophobia, this last one might make you a little uncomfortable. Back in 2017, these massive pipes washed along the shores of, you guessed it, the northern Norfolk coast. I had to say it slowly because it's a tongue twister. Spoilers. These pipes were lost at sea following an accident on the Iceland container ship, and they're absolutely massive. As soon as the first one washed ashore, the company that produced them, Pipe Life, urged the curious to stay away. These can easily crush a human being. These things have a diameter of 2 meters, and the longest one that washed up on the beach was 500 meters long. Also, that would be pretty annoying. Imagine getting to the beach with your towel, and then you have to walk around this giant thing that long just to take a dip. Getting piped down to the beach has an entirely new meaning. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I've been your host, Taylor McWatters. Comment down below if a part 2 is in your deepest desires, and we'll bring them to you. We'll see you next time on Most Amazing Top 10. Stay safe, make good choices, all that good stuff. See you later. But we'll see you next time on Most... That's why I write outros. They're actually referred to as by the wind sailors. They're actually referred to... They look like gross deflated balloons almost. And again, 3 years later... again, more washed ashore. They're also... Back in 1784, Japanese seaman Tsunisuke Matsuyama. Tsunisuke Matsuyama. Telling the story of the crew writing on thin... Telling the story of the crew writing his... They're used so the side of the ship of the northern Norfolk coast. Washed along the shores of the northern Norfolk coast. The northern Norfolk... I can't say that. It's a fucking tongue twister. The northern Norfolk coast. Hope we can use it. Hope we can use that pipe joke.